I worked out, and the Catch a Lift Foundation really helped us all. Everyone that was in my group made great strides from it.
I feel good. And like Cal's program is a big part of that, and all that different stuff with the Coach's Corner and having coaches or having different things. Use all of it. Whatever you need, use it to get you to where you need to be.
Thank you for tuning in to the Catch a Lift Fund's Coach's Corner podcast. We hope you enjoy today's episode and will consider supporting the Catch a Lift Fund and the veterans we serve. Visit our website for more information about our programs at catchaliftfund.org. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis or suicidal thoughts, please call 988 or the Veterans Crisis Line 988, followed immediately by the number 1. The views and opinions expressed during the Coach's Corner podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the Catch a Lift Fund. The Catch a Lift Fund does not verify or warrant the truth or accuracy of statements made during the podcast, and statements therein are not to be construed as an official policy or position of the Catch a Lift Fund. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and nothing herein should be construed as health, medical, or other professional advice. The Coach's Corner is a place for veterans to connect, heal, and share their stories. I'm Melissa Luke, the host of the Coach's Corner podcast. I am a U.S. Army Iraq War veteran, coach, and program director for the Catch a Lift Fund. The Coach's Corner is sponsored by ID Technologies. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. This week, I'm excited to introduce U.S. Army veteran Viv Kolb. Viv serves on the Catch a Lift team as a wellness group coach. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. Viv, welcome.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh.
And nervous.
I'm so excited to talk to you today. We've been waiting for this one a long time, and it's so exciting to be able to sit here live with you and do this talk.
Absolutely. I'm so ready.
All right, let's get into it, Viv. If you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about your life growing up and what would inspire you to join the U.S. Army.
So growing up, I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. So my mother, she's Cuban, and my father's Puerto Rican. So we kind of grew up, I'm the first generation of kids to get a college degree and all of that.
Awesome.
So
yeah.
Just coming from the background, it was very important, for my family, for me to do better, just everything that they went through, just to get to where they were. And it's always been an interesting childhood, my mom, being from where she was, she just had a different perspective on things. And then, and my father, he's a beautiful person, but he has always struggled, with alcohol. And just coming from that environment, like I knew that I had to do something different, and do something that I think would promote a good lifestyle for my family and in my future family at the time. And I wasn't in so when people think of Miami, they think of this beautiful touristy
for sure
type place, beaches, bikinis,
yep.
all kinds of beautiful sights. But Miami does have its interesting areas, a little bit on the darker side, and neighborhoods we were in weren't the most amazing neighborhoods. And just being able to get out of that neighborhood and become part of something that I felt like would be bigger than myself, as people say, serving others, doing something that I felt made sense. I've always had a very spiritual connection, to God, and I thought it made sense that I would do something to help other people in servitude. And
yeah.
and I think that kind of drew me to the Army.
Yeah.
And I joined when I was 17.
Yeah. So your parents had to sign for you then?
My parents had to sign for me. My mom definitely did not want to do that.
I'm sure.
She wanted me to stay home and go to college. At the time, I actually had a scholarship to go to a university in Florida, and I did not use it. I joined the Army instead. Academics was my way of, getting through and success, but the Army felt more important to me. And funny thing is, my dad served very briefly. He was a troublemaker, so he didn't get far. But he was excited.
That's
to see
cool.
how far I can go.
Yeah.
So it was like a little challenge too. So I really wanted to make them proud as well.
Yeah. That's so cool. Viv,
Yeah.
what MOS did you enlist with?
When I enlisted at the time, it was a 91 Sierra, which converted later to a 68 series, which was preventive medicine. And my recruiter told me that it was going to be the same thing as being a combat medic. And
Oh, jeez. Whenever someone leads with the recruiter told me, it's going to be good. Yeah.
Yes. My recruiter, by the way, was a SAR first class, and his last name was Best, and he always said that he was the best of the best. And I found out later why. The best of the best at telling me interesting things. But preventive medicine was definitely nothing like being a combat medic. As soon as I went through BCT at Fort Jackson and then ended up in San Antonio for AIT, the first thing they called us were butterfly catchers. Here are the butterfly catchers.
Butterfly catchers. Oh my gosh, you got to explain that. Talk to us about that.
So in preventive medicine, we have a block in our training is all entomology. So during
Really?
that time, you capture insects, arthropods, and things like that,
Okay, I
and
see
pin
where we're
them.
going. I see where we're going here.
We pin them to a shadow box.
Oh my gosh.
And we spent a few weeks in this block. RAIC is 16 weeks long, so I think it was a 2-week block. And we spent 2 weeks capturing bugs
Really?
and things.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
Yep. And we had to understand, how insects, bugs, reptiles, all those things kind of medically basically medically made a difference in whatever country soldiers were going
Right.
to. So it was very important to know what mosquitoes were in that country, in that area, what diseases did they carry, what type of poisonous snakes might they encounter. And this is kind of how we developed our medical threat briefs to give to deploying soldiers.
That's really interesting, and something I would have never thought of, on the front end, but I mean, yeah, that's incredibly needed. And right, think of all the different places and climates and parts of the world that people are deploying to. Viv, talk to us a little bit about, real time. So once you got through training, and out into active duty Army, what did that career look like for you during that position?
So once I got over the fact that I wasn't a combat medic,
Okay.
I actually really loved doing the
Did
job.
ya?
It involved a lot of public health, inspecting dining facilities, making sure that, they were up to par for soldiers, which I have so many stories. Thank goodness some of you soldiers out there didn't see what was going on in that kitchen.
Jeez.
I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
any kind of pest management issue you can think of, I've seen. We would do STD counseling, STI counseling, making sure. So everything kind of circulated around the prevention of disease.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So any type of disease you can think of that you can get from pests, other people, food, that is what we prevented. And then we also did environmental sampling. And that information is kind of where, the military gets the information of, what the burn pits were really harboring,
Okay, right,
so
right.
so it's preventive medicine that would put out the air samples out there, and take these microfilters and then kind of break them down, and then determine what chemicals are actually in the air and what's been affecting the soldiers that have been out there, during that duration of their deployments, and why they were getting sick, because we were finding all these interesting metals and things that cause cancer, carcinogens,
Right.
in that air. And that's why that's how we got that information. All that data is put into a system, and in that system, you have to ID like your samples by the location, that you found them at, and all that, is put into secret files. But you have your geolocations connected to these samples. So if there are things that are found later on, hopefully the soldiers get the health care, the VA health that they need, so you just never know. You never know what's going on in those countries. And we know now, like, how things have affected even our older veterans. Like Agent Orange is still affecting some of our older generation now. And environmental sampling is very important. So,
Viv, what were some of the unique challenges of doing that job in the Army?
Some of the unique challenges were, especially with your rank, because as a PFC, you were giving medical threat briefs to commanders, of units, and you had to...
Was that intimidating?
It was intimidating, definitely. So you had to be confident in what you were saying, and the commanders would want answers. Well, how do we prevent this? And we had to have the confidence and give a commander guidance. As a PFC, you're like, I'm not giving this captain any guidance. But you had to come in there and you had to do that, and that really, really helped me, because growing up in Miami, I was very shy. I was a social anxious type of person, and then being put into the military, put into a position where I had to do briefs for half of my career in front of not just like command groups, but in front of hundreds of soldiers at a time.
Right.
It really broke that that shell.
Holy cow, yeah. That's incredible.
Very nerve-wracking, but it helped.
Talk about exposure therapy, right? Oh my
exactly.
gosh, yeah.
A lot of exposure.
Yeah.
And then I remember in particular having to go to a post commander at Fort Rucker. I can't tell you his name at the time, but explaining to him that his golf course was rampant with roaches and mice infestations. And I'm a PFC, and I'm telling him, sir, you need to close this golf course down. And he's looking at me like, hey, PFC, I don't want to hear that. We're keeping this place open. And that's always difficult, because soldiers are getting sick from that going on, and you feel like you don't have enough weight to kind of protect them, and then have your superiors do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Like, sir, I have pictures. Do you want to see the pictures?
Oh my gosh.
So, but I love that part of the job, like, because you did have those good leaders that definitely their soldiers' health was number one, and they were all about it. Like, thank you for letting us know this. We are gonna get this resolved right away. So
yeah, that's tremendous. But I'm sure you did run up against those that they didn't want to hear it.
And thank God we're assigned environmental science officers, and they're usually majors, and I always had a major or captain to help back me up, and that was very helpful. Because sometimes it was us doing all the legwork, you know, all the surveillance, all the pictures and all of that, but we still needed that major, hey, come with me to this meeting so that this guy closes down this golf course for us.
Gosh, good grief. That's incredible.
Yep.
Viv, talk to us about a little bit of the work that you would do while deployed to Kuwait.
So while I was deployed to Kuwait, my main mission there was medical threat briefs.
Okay.
And then I would do field sanitation team training. So the medical threat briefs, when the soldiers came in the country, we just gave them the medical threats that were most commonplace in that Middle Eastern area. So we talked to them about the sand flies. We talked to them about the mosquitoes, the viruses that they can get, leishmaniasis, things like that.
Right.
So very specific. Some of the poisonous snakes that they may or may not encounter. Rabid dogs. That was the thing. Camels.
Yeah. So what was the brief on the camels? Tell us that.
So some of the camels or the cattle out there had this disease that if you came in contact with their saliva, you could get sick. And for some reason, I'm having a block in my mind what that disease was called, but it would affect the soldiers, especially their gastrointestinal system. And this would happen because, especially in an area like Kuwait, the camels were just, walking alongside the roads.
Definitely.
And the soldiers were allowed to get out of the vehicles and they would come up to them and try to pet the camels. Yep. And it was a thing, like, you do not pet the animals out there because they carry stuff. And but you know how we are. We always want to test it out.
For sure.
Eat on the economy, things like that. Which, being preventive medicine, I've gone through my own issues with PM stuff. So in Kuwait, we do our medical threat briefs, and we're like, try to avoid eating out in the economy if you can, because there's no one out there, to inspect those facilities. We don't know how they're preparing the food or what water they're using. and good old PM went and ate out on the economy. And then what happens to me? I contract H. pylori.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and it's a bacteria that you get when mainly fresh vegetables like salads and stuff like that are not cleaned the proper way. Okay. So they have this bacteria growing on it. And within a couple of days from me eating that salad, my stomach got so distended, I looked like I was 3 months pregnant in Kuwait because it was so full of
that's terrible.
Gas, painful gas.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like the bacteria eats up the lining of your stomach, and when you don't have that lining, that acid is just eating away at it. So very uncomfortable, very painful, and you definitely look a little pregnant there.
Oh my gosh.
And then I had to take antibiotics for a few months, until I got rid of that. So it definitely...
That stuff is no joke.
It definitely happens out there. And H. pylori is known, if you have it for too long, it can cause stomach cancers. So this is stuff soldiers may not know, like they've gone through and it's affected them in the future, and they don't know until, they come back from overseas. So it's important. So once that happened to me, I started adding that into the brief. I'm like, hey guys, really be careful, like take it seriously, because it's the little things sometimes that we don't even think about that can
for sure
get us. So I mean, camel spiders are one thing, but then you have bacteria in your stomach.
It's definitely a little more serious. That's definitely a little more serious. And that's funny. You talk about like warning against that, like eating on the economy. So I remember, and this would have been the end of 2005, and at the very end of my deployment, like before we went home, and we were in Kuwait, and I was put on duty with another soldier, and like we were like driving around from base to base that last couple of weeks, like dignitaries and just people moving them around. And for some reason, one of the days we went into Kuwait City and we went to the mall for a little while. And I remember like outside of it, there was a big market, and me and this other soldier were like walking through it. And I remember like the skinned hung whole animals like hanging there, like lambs and goats. And we ate, and it's hot as heck, and there's flies everywhere, and it stunk. So, the preface of me saying all this, and then we actually did eat at that market. I'm like, I have no idea why we would have, but I'm like, oh, I'm going to get sick. So yeah, I definitely got lucky getting out of that experience. But.
Oh yeah. I have a photo of me with a guy with his little goat hung up, skinned too.
Yeah.
I took a picture with him out in the market because I thought it was crazy.
I took so many pictures of that stuff. It was wild.
So many flies. You're right.
Yeah.
Their fly population was insane.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. And we know flies carry all kinds of
everything.
Things. So
it's
like it's the little things. And a big thing in Kuwait too is the mice, because they don't know where else to go to find food. There's just like all that desert out there, so they congregate wherever there are facilities and soldiers. So mice was an issue, and then to combat mice, we brought in cats, and then the cats became an issue. And it's an interesting cycle. That's hilarious. But I love the part of the job. And then what happened was soldiers, they started feeding the cats pizza. They're feeding the cats pizza and other stuff from the little gut trucks. And we have to tell them like, hey guys, stop feeding the cats pizza. We want them to eat these mice.
Oh my gosh.
And then we just have these fat ass cats in Kuwait that don't want to hunt for anything.
Oh my gosh.
So that was always
That's
funny.
Hilarious.
It's like we brought in these cats, but they were just sitting there getting Garfield fat and like just chilling.
Oh my gosh.
What?
I would imagine, that job was not dull for you, and you ran into some pretty interesting stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
That's very cool. Thank you for talking to us about that, Viv.
Of course.
So you would go on and you would do a 2-year stint as a drill sergeant.
Oh yeah.
We got to talk about this, girl. All right. How did this come about? How did your journey to becoming a drill sergeant start for you?
So while I was in Kuwait, thinking I had a hat back to Fort Bragg, I got DA selected to become a drill sergeant. And once you get DA selected, that's it.
That's in the story.
That's it.
Okay.
In the story.
Okay.
The Army sends you that email, and they're like, "All right, we need you to get your whole packet set up and send it right back to us. And as soon as it's good to go, we're slotting your school." And I got my packet sent over. They slotted me for school, which started literally like a week or two right after I got back from Kuwait. Yeah, there was barely any time there. I got back just in time to clear out my apartment, which was just a story in its own. I was going through a divorce, so when I got back, the apartment was in shambles, and so I had like 2 days to kind of clear it out, get all my stuff on the truck. Okay. And my mom and dad came in like clutch for me. They came in, they helped me clean the apartment, scrub things down and all of that, and get out of there. And then went straight to drill sergeant school. We were the first thing they tell you as soon as you get there is like, all right, so this is week 1. You have you have 10 of these pitches to memorize. On Friday, you will pick one. I think it might not have been 10, it might have been 6, but to me, it was overwhelming because you look at the pitches, and even like, for example, the position of attention is like one whole page in the little drill sergeant handbook. So I had to memorize this whole page and all these drill ceremony pitches. And at this point, being a soldier, I was at Bragg for about 6 years. We didn't do much drill ceremony.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
The only time we were in formations was for runs. Like,
okay,
you're
right.
gonna run.
Yep.
That's what we're gonna do. That's drill and ceremony right there. So we had to memorize all these pitches, and now they don't do it the same way anymore. It's a little bit different, but at that time it was rough. And then you'd sit there all week memorizing pitches, and then going to drill sergeant school at the same time, learning how you're going to execute like each of the weeks that the soldiers are in basic training, each of their phases and all of that.
Okay.
And then then we would embed with other units at the same time, so they would take us to other BCT battalions and companies. We would embed with them for a day, take over their soldiers, their trainees for about a couple hours, and then kind of yell at them for a bit because they wanted you to get comfortable with the feel of taking charge of like a platoon and the amount of soldiers that you kind of have to herd and control.
What did that feel like the first time that you're brought in like that to literally kind of go in charge or yell at soldiers? I mean, what was that first time like?
The first time, it feels very competitive because you have all these people. Some of the people in drill sergeant school were DA select, and then some were volunteer, and they wanted to be there, like,
Yep.
And so they're like, man, I can't wait to get in here and yell at these soldiers. So you're like, shoot, I gotta put on the same game face because I'm not gonna have this dude looking like he could do this better than me.
Oh my gosh.
So for me, it was always like, I have to do a good job in whatever comes at me, the best that I can do, and so I learned how to flip a switch and get into almost like a little alter ego. And when we went to that first company, I just like went in like I was Full Metal Jacket. You remember that movie?
Oh, I remember.
So yeah, everybody loves that first half of that movie because it's a long movie, but you tune into that part of you and you're like, I'm just gonna go in here and go off on them. Every little you get good at pointing out deficiencies and things like that already in school. Drill sergeant school, they teach you how to do that, so you already have a keen eye and everything sticks out to you, so that part's easier. It's just tapping into that alter ego so that you can keep up with that level of energy,
right?
Which is very hard. That part is hard because you're doing it for a long time, all day.
So talk to me a little bit more about that, Viv. How did you develop that? Because we've talked about this a little bit before, right? That developing that alter ego and kind of like that switch, right? Because like sitting here with you, you were one of the sweetest, kindest people I've ever had the honor of meeting. So what helped you develop that, or how did you turn it on, or what did you tap into to really make that happen?
One of the main things I thought about, and especially being a female soldier,
right,
was wanting to be just as good as my male counterparts, if not better.
Okay.
So I was like, it always seemed and I don't know if it really is, but it always seemed easier, you know, for the males to tap into that disciplinary role.
Right.
And, you know, we see that even in our households and stuff. Like, you know, the dad's always the one that does the wait till your dad gets home, you know, thing. And so, but now I'm in this role where, you know, I have to train and discipline and create these products, you know, these people that I know are going to get deployed, you know, that are going to be going to their units, and they need to be good soldiers, you know, for those that they're serving alongside with and under. And I was like, I gotta do a good job at this. I can't screw this up.
Oh my gosh.
And that kind of helped drive me to turning on this little crazy Viv. And I was like, I have to do it because I can't go in there and be this sweet Viv, because they're gonna like, who cares about this drill sergeant? Like they call those drill sergeants candy drill. Who cares about this candy drill?
Candy drill. That's
funny.
Funny.
They call them candy drills, and they won't respect you, you know. And then if the trainees aren't respecting you, they aren't listening to how important the training is. You know, so you needed to gain their respect. That way when you spoke, they listened, and then they understood what they were being trained, and they could execute those, you know, warrior tasks and drills. Right. So yeah, I used a lot of cough drops in the beginning because my voice was not built to scream all day long. But then you kind of learn your methods. Like there are times where you learn you don't need you don't always need to yell, but you need to figure out how to gain that respect so that, you know, you can train them the right way.
What was it like, Viv, when, you know, you actually got to the basic training units and now, you know, you're full on a drill sergeant? What was that like for you?
That was interesting. It's interesting when you're in a support MOS because being at Fort Jackson is not like being at Fort Benning, where most of your drill sergeants are combat soldiers or combat MOS. Right. So we have our support drill sergeants, because you have females, you know, embedded into all the companies, and then you have other males of support MOSs. So being mixed in with the combat drill sergeants, that was interesting. Working alongside infantry, which is something that I hadn't done up until that point. Okay. And we all know why the sky is blue. Because God loves the infantry. I love you guys too. So, and I did. I learned to love the infantry guys. You guys are amazing. You're doing amazing things for this country.
Absolutely.
Some of them are real pains in the asses, but I still love you. But being in that training environment with them, and that they have that type of experience that, you know, I didn't have that. I knew how to train clearing a room, but I've never cleared a room. You know what I mean? So, and then having them there, and it's like, you know, they can tell you so much more. Like, this is the actual thing that happened when me and my team were clearing. Like, this is what you would really do. This is what the book says, but this is what really happens with us out there. And then actually giving them that opportunity to teach me that, so that I can teach the soldiers the right thing. It felt good to me, because I didn't want to just give them book stuff. I wanted to know, like, what they would have really needed to know, and then teach them that. And just getting good at, you know, just understanding weapon systems and tactics and things like that was very different, you know, coming from a support MOS. But I thought it was important, you know, and I was glad that, you know, I was able to get better at that, you know, and have that support from that side of, you know, the military. And And I appreciated that. I appreciated that some of them took the time to help me and get me, more versed in those things.
Right.
So that the soldiers didn't look at me like, it's just another female drill sergeant that just does this, she just yells at me. That's all she does. She doesn't know how to train.
Yep.
It's always the male drill sergeant that trains us. But the female, all she does is yell about my hair, Like, I didn't want to be that drill sergeant. I didn't want to be the one that's just yelling about your bun and,
Yelling about your bun.
I don't give a shit about that. I want you to get
funny.
good at PT and get good at tactics. Just empowering other females was a big thing for me, too.
Absolutely.
I would always tell the females, man, we gotta work hard. Sometimes we gotta work harder. Don't come over here with this bullshit mentality that you want these male soldiers to do it all for you, or you're not just as capable as they are. Come in here and you go hard, learn everything you need to learn everything that you don't think you need to learn, and learn it, and be good at it.
Yeah.
So.
I remember so I went through basic training at Fort Jackson in it was January of 2004, and I had one female drill sergeant and 2 males, and so this was 2004, so we were a couple years into the Iraq and Afghanistan wars at this time, and both of the one male drill sergeant, he had been infantry overseas, and the other one was an MP in the OEF wars. I had so much respect for my female drill sergeant. Like, I absolutely loved her. She was so damn strong, and she was so hard, and man, she'd come in that bay and it's like, no, you better be tight. But the way she presented herself, and just it reminds me of what you're describing, right? And how you probably would have been. But I learned so much about just how to carry myself as a female soldier from watching her and watching the way she interacted, and it gave me confidence, because as a female, the military's male dominant to begin with. So I think the unique leadership that comes out of those female drill sergeants, the opportunity to make an impact there is so very big.
Hell yeah. And it's their first impression of what a female soldier is. And
right. Yes, that's a good point.
So
yes.
important, that they see, that strong example of what a female is, and that kind of helped me, tap into that alter ego too, because I didn't want them to see like a weaker version of a soldier just because that soldier was female.
Right.
No, you're gonna see an equal amount of strength or more, because another thing was I made sure that I was running A or B group, so you wasn't gonna catch me back there. Like, you guys were gonna keep up with me.
That's funny.
But yeah, and I wanted the females to follow me. I said, hey, you're gonna be in my group, let's do this thing.
We're gonna go.
I want more females in this group. Like,
that's so cool. Viv, talk to us a little bit about because this is really at the end of the day what you were doing, right? You were developing young soldiers. Talk to us about what it's like to develop a young soldier, from day one to when they graduate.
It feels amazing, and because we're all doing it as a team, you have your team of drill sergeants, and then a lot of us are hounding in on let's say one person in particular we know is struggling, and we're all doing different tactics and techniques, and then to finally get through to some of them and see their whole life change. Or one of the things that you don't hear a lot is just the emotional baggage that people just come with in general. We veterans have a bunch of emotional baggage, but so do civilians. They come in with
absolutely, yes.
So they come in with that, and then just having to kind of mentor them and see how this military lifestyle can just impact and change their entire lives. They're coming from broken homes. They're coming from poverty, you know, just seeing how it really affects them, and it gives them hope for like a better life, which is how I always felt the military gave me like a better chance at life. And I love when it clicks for them and they see it too, and they're really happy. And when they graduate and they put on that uniform at the end and they think they're the shit, like they're in there, they're like, yep, even though their beret's all crazy looking, they're still so that pride in their face is everything. Like those are the ones that you're like, yeah, well, this one's a good one, you know. Look how much pride that person has. Like they're very proud that they're part of this organization that's serving the country, and I like that feeling, like that I got that person, you know, to get through basic training, to not quit on us, you know, to stay tough and make it to the end.
So I'm not jumping way ahead here because we're going to loop back around to this, right? But I mean, this is one of the things that make you such a tremendous coach, right? You understand that where somebody starts at day one is not the end result. You know how to stick with someone and not give up on someone. I mean, that's just, you know.
Transformations are, it doesn't matter the length of time a transformation takes, just that it happens and then you see that person blossom, you know. It can take years, it can take a couple of weeks, but just seeing that click for them, that transformation, and to see how they are enjoying being healthier, enjoying being more active, and it's really good to see that, and that you possibly, you know, help them change for a longer life, longevity, you know, things like that, because we know that some of the places people start with, they're almost near, you know, some dark places, near death, and to get them out of that and see the light is really amazing.
Looking back now, Viv, what are you most proud of that time serving as a drill sergeant?
Definitely, like, just the fact that there were so many people that told me I couldn't do it, and it really pissed me off. You know who you are. And they were like, you're too nice to be a drill sergeant, you're too, you know, and they basically didn't think I could, and for different reasons, you know. And a lot of it had to do with my personality, you know, being a kind person and compassionate, which is ridiculous to me, because in my mind I'm like, because I care so much, and because I do wear my heart on my sleeve, I'm one of those people. I think it worked out better for me because I cared about doing the best that I could so much. That's why I did it, and I'm proud of my own transformation, being put into that position, and all the trainees that helped transform me, make me stronger, because I had to be stronger for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is, I was so excited to talk to you since the very first time I found out, you know, you were a drill sergeant. I've been so excited to talk to you about this. So thank you so much for reflecting on that with us and sharing with us. And thank you for the tremendous service that you did for our country as a soldier and serving as a drill sergeant and forming and mentoring young soldiers. That's just so dang cool, Viv.
It's fun too.
I bet. What was the funnest part? What was most fun? What was most fun?
I mean, a little bit of everything. Just you know, my personality, very laid back and chill. So it was fun being a different person for a while, and it's the training in itself is fun. Just doing all the different types of training, always going to the range and things like that. I enjoy that. But man, it was fun figuring out different ways to smoke them. Like that was always, you had to, in this day and age, and any newer generation drill sergeant can attest to this. You have to be very creative, because TRADOC regulates a lot of how we train and deal with the soldiers, and some of that, not bashing TRADOC, but some of that can result in a lack of discipline, and this finding creative ways to kind of get them to understand the weight of that uniform that they're gonna put on. I think that part was fun.
What were some of the creative ways that you tapped into for that? Ask you for your secrets here.
Oh, that's a good. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I should. So one of the rules, I'll just put out this rule. This one's the safest one to talk about. At one point, they were telling us that when we were punishing the soldiers, that we could not do no more than 10 repetitions of an exercise during a punishment, which is ridiculous compared to when we came in. They would just smoke us till we all threw up our breakfast.
Yeah.
So they're like, yep, no more than 10 repetitions. Then you bring it back to the position of attention, and then you go continue on with training. So they came out with the 8-count push-up. And we're like, oh, this is freaking
here we
perfect.
Go. Okay, I see what you did there.
And so once the 8-count push-up came up, we would just be like, in cadence. And then we would just go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And we would do that for 30 minutes straight. So they're basically doing practically like a half burpee for 30 minutes. And then you can't say the next repetition till we got to the number 8. So, so technically they were on their first repetition for 30 minutes. And that's kind of what we did. And so we stayed within the guidelines of the rules.
That's hilarious.
It was challenging being creative, because sometimes you did have some trainees that were they were interesting. They would read the TRADOC regulations that were posted on the walls, and then they would report us. So you had to be careful. Yeah, we were like, really, you're reporting me because you're pissed off that I made you do, some more push-ups, and like a couple of us, had investigations on us, and even I did. I had a very brief investigation on me, and it lasted like 2 days. Yeah. And but because of that, soldiers getting upset at the way that you speak to them, or you discipline them, and it's like, man, you're in the Army,
Did that?
What were you expecting?
Right. Would that affect you then, like, after something like that, or just being, even not necessarily like an investigation, but just kind of being under that thumb and knowing that, they very well might go report me or something? Did that, affect the way that you could perform your duties?
It did affect it a little bit, because it felt like a lot of the times we had to almost dim it down.
Yeah,
and we wanted the soldiers to feel the importance, and like I said, that weight of that uniform, and then like so many rules were placed on us. We were like, they're not gonna feel this. Like, if we really did only 10 push-ups every time we got pissed at them for losing a weapon or losing, like,
this is very big stuff.
That's big stuff. Like, 10 fucking push-ups is not shit to losing a weapon and hands across America now. So if they lose something, they lose their MVGs or something, hell yeah, we're fucking pushing all night long, because you don't ever want this to happen again.
Yeah.
And that was the issue we were running into. We were like, you're calling us drill sergeants because you're drilling this, we're drilling this into their mind, the importance of this, the importance of accountability, the importance of all of these things, soldier tasks. So let us drill them. Not kill them, but drill them. Yeah. Within the limits of keeping them alive, of course, and healthy.
Of course.
But let us do our job. And so a lot of us felt that way. Like, we were like, this is bullshit, like, they're not going to feel that weight of it. Yeah, oh, okay, you lost an ACOG. All right, 10 push-ups. Come on now. Come on.
Yeah, like, get into the regular army and lose a weapon or some NVGs, and what's going to happen?
Yep, Article 15, you lose your pay. It's like, then they're going to feel the weight, but they're not going to understand it. Oh, why is they're going to do the boo-hoo? Why is this happening to me? I don't deserve this Article 15. But if we drill it to them now, like, hey, this is severe, then when it happens, you know why you deserve it. You know why, because you understood it then.
What a job.
What a job.
What a responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
What a responsibility. We are concluding part 1 of Viv's story. We will return next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern for part 2 of Viv's story. Thank you, Viv, for sharing your story and your light with us all today. It was absolutely tremendous. Thank you to Lynn Coughlin, Henry Pomper, and Kaylee Nasiri for all the work you do to make this possible week after week, and we thank the entire Catch a Lift team. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday live at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for a chance to win Cal Swag and to chat with your brothers and sisters. Until next week, keep it real and stay Cal strong.